Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of the absolute heaviest, most fundamental questions of the entire human experience. Despite all of our civilized advancements, why does human conflict just keep persisting? It's a massive topic, and to really get it, we need to look through a scientific, psychological, and systemic lens. So, let's get right into it.
Seriously, just take a look around at our modern world. We like to consider ourselves pretty enlightened and advanced, right? Yet we have to ask ourselves, why do societies that build these breathtaking cathedrals, universities, and museums simultaneously build weapons and battlefields? Why don't people just stop wars? Why do we make war in the first place? Well, to figure out why humans can't seem to live in peace, we can't just look at modern politics. We actually have to dig way deep down into the ancestral soils of humanity.
The philosopher Thomas Hobbes actually framed our natural state perfectly with the phrase, "Man is a wolf to man." In his famous work, Leviathan, he argued that humans are not naturally peaceful beings at all. He believed we're driven by fear and constant competition, and that without some massive central power to regulate us, we'd inevitably just turn on each other. So for Hobbes, war isn't some glitch in the system, it's literally the natural state of human relations. But we have to ask, is that just philosophy, or is it actual biology?
Part 1. The Animal Within. Let's shift from philosophy to science and examine those deep evolutionary roots.
Evolutionary biologist Richard Overy points out something pretty wild. Collective, lethal fighting for survival goes back at least 200,000 years in the human lineage. Think about early humans. They were incredibly vulnerable to bigger animals and, frankly, to other tribes. Their entire key to survival was protecting themselves, which very often meant fighting out of pure primal fear. So this instinct to combat our rivals, it is deeply, deeply inscribed into our evolutionary hardware.
But hold on, because evolutionary psychologist Hector Garcia warns us against falling for what's called the naturalistic fallacy. And this is a totally crucial point. Just because we have a biological instinct for violence that developed over thousands of years to help us survive, that absolutely does not make war moral, desirable, or inevitable. Yes, we are biological creatures, for sure, but we also possess the completely unique power of self-awareness and the capacity to literally choose a different path.
Which brings us to part 2, the mind at war. Because if we really do have the choice to stop, why do our minds keep manufacturing enemies?
To understand this, we have to look at the famous psychoanalyst Carl Jung. He developed this concept called the shadow. Basically, it's the idea that all of us, every single human being, carry dark aspects, fears, and unacceptable desires right in our unconscious minds, and we totally refuse to acknowledge them. When we don't deal with this shadow, we project it onto other people. We turn someone else into the enemy, projecting everything we secretly hate about ourselves onto them. We make them the receptacle for all the qualities we reject. So in this psychological sense, war is really just the externalization of our own internal battles.
And the crazy thing is, this psychological disposition scales right up to the societal level. A fascinating study from Cogitatio Press actually investigated the psychological underpinnings of why people support war. They found that individuals who exhibit dark personality traits, specifically psychopathy, which involves extreme emotional detachment, and sadism, which is deriving pleasure from harming others, are significantly more likely to endorse military actions. War support isn't always about some cold, rational geopolitical strategy. Oftentimes, it's driven by deep-seated traits like authoritarian submission and this intense desire for social dominance.
But here's the thing, you don't even need a battlefield to see this psychology at work. These exact same impulses create what are known as symbolic wars right in our everyday lives. Think about it. Whenever there's that desperate need to prove someone else wrong at absolutely any cost, or when we construct these elaborate narratives just to humiliate a rival on social media or in the office, we are actively participating in the exact same pattern of hostility and polarization that fuels actual literal warfare.
Okay, let's step back from individual psychology for a second. Part 3, the math of conflict. Let's look at the macro level.
If we assume that states and their leaders are, generally acting rationally, we run straight into a massive mystery in international relations. It's known as the inefficiency puzzle. Look, war is always incredibly costly. It costs blood, treasure, and infrastructure. It's devastating. So if war destroys the very resources that everyone is fighting over, why do wars even happen when it would be objectively better for all parties to just sit down at a table and reach a peaceful agreement?
Well, political scientist James Fearon developed something called the bargaining model of war to answer exactly this. He proposes 3 main reasons why diplomacy ends up failing. First up is uncertainty. Basically, states miscalculate each other's military strength and resolve. They guess wrong. Second, commitment problems. States literally cannot credibly promise they won't use their growing military strength in the future, which just makes their rivals super paranoid. And third is indivisibility. This is the belief that a resource, like a piece of sacred territory, just cannot be divided or shared. It can only be completely controlled by one side.
Which naturally leads us to part 4, the vicious cycle. Because even when states have perfectly good intentions, the global system itself is kind of designed to make peace incredibly fragile. This dynamic creates what scholars call the security dilemma. According to international relations theory, our global system is entirely anarchic. There is no world police force you can call to guarantee a country's safety. Because of that, states have to rely completely on self-help. They build up their militaries simply to protect themselves. But here's the catch. That completely rational, defensive action sets off a highly dangerous chain reaction.
Scholar Robert Jervis summarized this dilemma perfectly. He pointed out that many of the means by which a state tries to increase its own security inadvertently decrease the security of others. Think about it like this. If you go out and buy a shield, your neighbor looks over the fence and worries you're preparing for a fight, so they go and buy a sword. Well, you see their brand new sword, panic a little, and go buy a full suit of armor. You see what's happening? It creates this vicious cycle of mutual suspicion and military buildup, even when literally neither state initially intended to be aggressive. And the danger of this dilemma absolutely skyrockets depending on the offense-defense balance. When military technology heavily favors offensive operations over defensive protection, meaning whoever strikes first has a huge, massive advantage, states end up living in constant fear of a surprise attack. This drastically intensifies the mistrust and makes preemptive strikes seem like the only rational option for survival. It's a terrifying position to be in.
To see exactly how this works in the real world, neutrally, let's look at the ongoing tensions between Iran, the US, and Israel. From an international relations perspective, as Iran seeks to strengthen its strategic positioning and its deterrent capabilities, rival states like Israel and the US naturally adopt advanced defense and countermeasure systems. But then, those very countermeasures deepen Iran's insecurity, which leads to more proxy conflicts and nuclear posturing. It is a textbook vicious circle of militarization. Defensive intent sparks escalating global conflict, regardless of who started what.
And finally, part 5, the profit of war. We absolutely cannot ignore the structural driver of human conflict operating behind the scenes. We're talking about the massive, deeply entrenched economic incentives of warfare. Consider the US military-industrial complex. A major issue here is the revolving door phenomenon. Just between 2008 and 2018 alone, nearly 650 generals and senior Pentagon officials left government service only to turn around and join military-industrial companies. This personnel flow creates a deeply integrated community of shared interests. The defense firms and the military decision-makers become incredibly intertwined. And this leads directly to what economists call rent-seeking. Since defense firms operate as rational actors trying to maximize their profits, they actively lobby and use their immense political influence to secure massive government contracts. Research actually shows that this complex actively fabricates or exaggerates enemies through media and think tanks. Why? Simply to justify expanding military expenditures even when those expansions completely misalign with actual national security needs.
To put that into perspective, the scale of this financial incentive is just staggering. During the Iraq War alone, spanning from 2003 to 2011, U.S. military-industrial firms profited over $138 billion. $138 billion. When war becomes this incredibly lucrative for the very institutions holding the most political influence, the tendency toward frequent military intervention just becomes this unstoppable, self-perpetuating machine. Conclusion. So, let's bring it all together. Why don't we stop wars? Well, as we've seen, the forces working against peace are immense. Our biology literally wires us with an ancient instinct to fight for survival. Our psychology tricks us into projecting our darkest fears onto our neighbors. The anarchic math of global politics traps well-meaning states in inescapable spirals of mutual paranoia. And structurally, we have a massive economic complex that stands to make billions of dollars when diplomacy fails.
But here is the takeaway. Understanding this anatomy of war actually gives us power. It shows us that while the impulse for conflict is deeply programmed into our hardware, it is absolutely not our destiny. We uniquely possess the self-awareness to recognize these psychological traps. We have the rationality to reject the naturalistic fallacy. And we have the ability to intentionally choose diplomacy over destruction. So, I want to leave you with this one final thought. If war really is humanity's oldest instinct, isn't peace our absolute greatest invention? Let that sink in for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.